Good afternoon, anybody. Where are we? Let's have a look. This is a very strange feeling. Again, it's normal if you're in a public speaking domain, you can sit and you can see blank faces or have that nervous anticipation. But when you're staring at your laptop screen, it's a little bit different, more fun. We've got just a couple of minutes until the webinar is due to start, and we'll be starting at 2 o'clock sharp. So again, if anybody drops in late, the idea is we'll start a little bit slower, warm things through, and start talking about topic and content as we get into it. So we'll see if we're okay to get going at that point. Again, feel free, there's no videos on, no microphones on, so you can feel free to sit and grab a coffee or a tea or a glass of water, whatever you might want while you're listening. I think it's quite usual for this sort of topic. The idea of this topic anyway was meant to be a sort of lower numbers webinar, on the basis that those that really, really need this sort of help, generally speaking, are those that aren't able to get to the meetings in the first place. So we're not expecting a huge number in today, but the idea is that we can share this, record it afterwards, and get some people out there to have a little look. We've got just like a minute or so until we get going. And again, if anybody's there, wants to use this as like a more networking event, if you like, if you want to put your details into the chat bar, for anybody to follow up and have a conversation with, again, anybody that can help somebody else grow networks, do that sort of thing, it's all worthwhile doing. So feel free to chat away and introduce each other or yourselves to each other. We'll get started now. I think we just hit 2 o'clock, so we'll get started now. And again, like I said, thank you very much for those of you who did, who I would get on today. It is, like I said, it's this sort of topic which isn't necessarily very easy for people to make the time to do, because it's one of those things where, you know, in my corporate land experience, it is the kind of thing where people who most need this help are those that are likely to be unavailable, not get to meetings and not attend. So it's likely to be that situation. I'll start off sort of slightly slower, so those can maybe drop in a little bit later. But again, thank you very much for attending. In terms of, it's the investing time to save time. It's a very worthwhile thing to do, to making sure that you can actually do that. So thank you for taking the time out today. There is that offer out there. I don't know if you've seen it. If anyone finds that they don't get at least double their time back, then feel free to come and speak to me afterwards, and I'm more happy to buy you a coffee to apologise if you don't get back more than you've invested. The idea is, again, that I'll move into an introduction, so I'll just start now. I wanted to keep this one fairly short and sweet. We'll have half an hour roughly of me talking and hopefully giving some ideas and some insight. Once we've moved on from that half an hour, there'll just be a little bit of Q&A at the end, and then we can wrap up sooner than the hour that's been allocated. Again, the Q&A bar, or there's a Q&A section there. There's a chat section as well. If you've got any questions that you want to raise, they're being monitored by people, so feel free to jump into the chat or the Q&A to ask any questions as we go along. So I'll start with a little bit of an intro. The intro is a little bit about me, first of all, just a little bit around my background. So I used to be the IT guy, an investment banking guy down in London, first of all, and I really enjoyed the concept of working to sort of really strict and tight guidelines, if you like, but then moving into the IT side of things to try and help people to understand the technology that was being used, and that translation between the technology being good technology, but also being really usable by the teams that were using it. There was also that aspect of every single team that I worked in, or every company that I worked for, where people just got it. And again, I think if you know the concept I'm talking about here, it'll make sense. But if you work somewhere where everyone's getting it and understands what's happening, that was the sort of experiences that I loved. So from there on, that's kind of the theme that I try to bring into anybody I'm coaching, anybody I'm working with. I want to help people to understand and to really get things. Also keeping things simple. So I love keeping it simple myself, and my approach is quite simple. So again, if you find that things are a little bit complicated and you don't really understand what I'm talking about, then feel free, please get in touch with me, and I'll explain more about what I'm trying to talk about to make it simple so that you understand things. The idea is that, again, I like to start at the end with the end in mind, and that's everything I do. Everything I do with the coaching and everything I try to work with is starting at the end. So you've got that end game in mind and then coming back from there. And from today's perspective, we're talking mostly about your daily routines and your daily tasks and activities. And ultimately, what I would like you to have from today is to try and work towards keeping things with that sense of satisfaction and completeness in mind, and making sure you're results driven each day. And again, that could be, the results there could be as simple as having that sense of satisfaction each day. How many of you, I'm sure there are plenty of you, I mean, I'm guilty of this myself on some days, you get to the end of the day and you don't feel like you've finished, you don't feel like you've achieved. If you can try and bring that in so that most days you have a completed day and you've actually achieved things that day with results that are assigned to it, that's the concept we're going for. So starting at the end is hopefully, that's what we're going to try and bring for you as a result of this workshop or webinar today. So now we'll move on through the, after the intro, we've got now into the section of ways in that we lose time. And again, anybody, apologies if you weren't brought up in the same sort of era as me, but when we're talking about time, surely there can't be a way to not get a picture of the DeLorean in the background there. It's the first movie I went to see with my dad at the cinema, so again, I had to bring that one in. Again, time though, we all have 24 hours in every single day. And this is where it gets quite difficult. And this section is a little bit on the daunting side, if you like. We all have 24 hours in a day. It's normal and it's natural that you try to look for that silver bullet to try and find the thing that's going to work for you. There are lots and lots of books out there. There are lots of other educational resources that will tell you, go and start at 4 o'clock in the morning, get up, do that power yoga or whatever it might be at 4 o'clock in the morning and just push right through the day, do all of this, do all that, structure your days in a certain way, but that's not necessarily the case. It needs to be that you need to find the way that works for you. Some people are night owls and work much better in the night. Some are much better working during the day. Some are earlier. So it needs to be down to what works for you. On top of that, there's the energy level side of things and managing energy levels. What I can confirm, and again, it's not going to be brain science or rocket science for anybody, that energy levels will vary person to person, but also if you're depleted on your energy levels, then it's going to make you less efficient at what it is that you're doing. So making sure that you do take the time to recharge and to get your energy levels to the right place means that you can be efficient and effective with your time. Similarly, from a downtime perspective, everybody needs it. You need to get that downtime. You need to make sure that you're taking the time out to recharge your batteries. But again, it's that kind of procrastination that you might use as like excuses. I'm taking some downtime, I need it. When you do that too much, that starts to become a little bit more dangerous. When it comes onto the human nature side of things, again, the human nature is that you're forced almost to try and lose time. You're forced to save energy and conserve. Way back in the Stone Age, the idea is there, the concepts were that you were hunters and gatherers, and that was your job. You got up in the morning, you saved your energy, and you're ready for the next hunt. You're ready to go out and find the thing that's going to keep you alive that day. And that's not really been deprogrammed from our psyche. That's the way we live now. If you look at the efficiencies that we try to make, everything that we've seen in terms of progression over the years is all to try and speed things up, to try and make things faster, to try and make us more efficient at what we do. You know, we weren't designed to sit on the sofa for X number of hours a day. We weren't designed to drive in cars even. So those things have all been designed to make things more efficient, to make us more and more efficient. So on top of that one, once you've got the human nature aspect to it, the progression we've seen over the last 20 or 30 years is that technology is taking over at such a rate and such a scale that, again, the efficiencies are going beyond what we need. There is a huge amount of work that's gone into the development of the technology that we use. Everything's there to try and make things simpler. Everything is geared to try and make things simpler. But at the same time now, it goes back again before technology, not only are things designed to be simpler for you, but they're also designed to distract you. They're to try and get your attention and to try and want a piece of you. And again, when you think about that concept, everything is designed to try and get a piece of you. When you think about this, it's not even just technology. Think about your kids or people that you know. They want your attention. It's just normal that people want to engage with other people. And so your kids will want a piece of your time. But similarly, every app that you've got, it's all now designed to be as efficient as it can to try and get you to spend more time. The data that's available to try and get things from you, it's very, very easy for app developers to then start using that and say, well, actually, the thumb stoppers is a term that's starting to become more popular now. There's a thumb stopper. How long do you spend scrolling through your screen? And when do you stop? And when do you pause? When do you screen print? Where do you click? What don't you do? Those things are all designed to then try and make the apps even more appealing to you to try and get you to spend more time on those apps. So that sounds a bit daunting to the technology side, but it isn't just technology. Think again from the marketing perspective, billboards that are there. I drive my kids to school every day and there's a massive billboard, it's huge. There's the time when the Suicide Squad movie was out. It's obviously, my kids are quite young, 6 and 5, and the boys are nearly 7. Those who really can't be watching Suicide Squad, but they saw the advert and they're like, oh wow, that looks amazing. It's big, it's bright, it's energetic. They wanted to get involved and see what that was all about. So these things have been there for a long time. Shortly down the road, just after that billboard, there's a great big golden M. They know what that is. They see it. They understand. It's all there to try and appeal to them and to anybody. Beyond that, before that, think about clothing, the things that you might wear, the things that you might choose to wear. Some of this stuff, or all of this stuff, has been designed to be more appealing. The clothes designers are trying to make you more appealing as an individual. Some people subscribe to it, some people don't. But way back, this was part of society. The higher up you were in society, the more regal your formal, your wear might be. So again, it's that whole point of trying to distract and trying to impose and trying to show people what it is that you're there for. I think I was given an example as well just after the war. One of the things that Churchill didn't ration was lipstick. He didn't ration lipstick because, again, that was meant to boost the economy. The idea was that the women would wear the lipstick, the men would be invigorated and empowered, the economy would grow as a result. It's a strange thing, and I don't know if it's true or that actually made a difference or not, but it's those little tiny things that sometimes are there to just designed to distract you, engage you, and get you to look at what it is that's being looked at. So again, it all sounds slightly daunting, but bear in mind what we're trying to get to here is that concept at the beginning, the sense of satisfaction and completeness at the end of each day, as well as results. So if you can think about how you might want to do that and what you might do to try and make some of those things that are distracting you, think about the things that are distracting you that you don't need, and we'll come on to that in a moment. So the first thing we're going to do now is, or not first thing, next thing will be start looking at those tracking things. So we're looking here, and again, sometimes you'll see with a webinar or a video call, those kind of things, it's normal that people might say, don't get your phones out, engage, listen to me, it's all about me. Again, I'm trying to distract you. I want you to listen to me. But this time it's different. I would like you to get your phone out, and you should see that on your phone, you've got the option there for screen time on, I think it's in the settings part of iPhones, and apps notifications, advanced, and screen time. So get your phone out and see if you can navigate to where you might see that bit of information. There'll be a poll that I'm going to create. Where are we? So the poll should be here. That one is now in progress. So you should see, have a look at your total time on your phone. And again, I'll show you the screen from mine. This was mine a little while ago. Where is it? So when you look at your total screen time, on my phone, I've got the option there that I can see the total amount of time, the notifications that I receive, the number of times I opened my phone, so unlocked it, and then I can see the recently used applications. So see if you can find there, and then you've got the 3 options. And I'm just curious to see if what you're seeing in terms of the total screen time, in terms of the amount of time you spent on your phone over the last few days, or just on the last week or so, whichever works for you, just let me know what you think in terms of, is it what you expected to see? Is it less than you expected? Or is it more than you expected? So the poll should be open and you should be able to see things. How is that? I'll leave that for another 30 seconds or so. Just get another little bit of time to click through and just see what people can see. Okay, so another sort of 10 seconds, just see again if you could have a look and see if you can find it. And again, if you can't find it, let me know. And there are ways, but this is just an example of one place that you can go and see and track what it is that you're doing. Okay, so I'll close that survey or the poll now. That's done for now. But again, the idea is there. So surprisingly, it's actually 67% have said it's more than you expected. Now, for me, actually, when I first did this back in the summer, the total amount of time I spent on my phone, I didn't think was more than I expected. It was roughly what I thought it would be. Because at the time I was busy with my running club, busy with work, busy with BNI, busy with the kids. I had a lot going on and I expected the phone usage to be quite high. So that was quite normal for me. But now the next part of this one is where we go on to, poll number 2. So now we'll launch this one again and we'll leave it open for about 90 seconds or so. So now you're looking at the apps that you've actually used. Look at the number 1 app that's using most of your time. Again, it might be different over different days. But if you could just vote on there again, is the one that's the number 1 use of your time, is that an acceptable or not an acceptable amount of time that you think that you've used on that one? And again, I'll come on to my use on that one. So where we find some of this stuff is, again, what we're trying to show here, this is the concept of bringing things to your psyche, bringing things to the forefront of your mind to make sure that you're aware of what it is that you can see. And phones have made this really quite simple. And they've tried to bring in this stuff on my phone. It's obvious to see. It's that aspect of they're trying to give you digital well-being. They're trying to help you to make things better. But it's often easy to brush it to one side thinking it's needed, it's my phone, it's what I use every single day. It's the sort of thing that you can brush to one side. But it's not the only place, obviously, you're spending your time. It's just an example that we can use quite easily. And it is an easy concept to get your head around. So we'll give that on another sort of 10 seconds or so, 15 seconds, just so we get back. And again, I'm seeing there again at the moment, there's the 67 split. It's 67% have said that it's not acceptable. So similar to, again, the phone being used too much. Now, mine was not acceptable. When I looked at mine personally was WhatsApp. It was absolutely killing me. Every single day, there was hours that were being spent on WhatsApp. It was beyond what I wanted to do. So I knew that wasn't good enough for me, and I had to change that. But again, this is the idea here is behind this is you can just see that this is a way to look at something that's quite easy to get hold of. It isn't the only way to track things. There might be things like Netflix, it could be gaming, it could be other things that you do that take your time. And each of those you need to go and have a look at and think about tracking them to see what you're spending your time on. Because if you don't track it, you're going to find it very difficult to then make changes to make yourself more efficient. And I think it's not to say that any of this stuff is unacceptable. You shouldn't ban yourself from using Netflix or your devices. It shouldn't be banned, but you need to make sure that you're in control of it rather than it being in control of you. So what else do you need to track? But that's going to be over to you. Again, I'm more than happy to bounce a conversation around so we can chat about that if you need to. But it's over to you guys to think about what is it that you need to track? What's stopping you and making you not as inefficient as or less efficient than you might want to be. You can also, where are we? Focus is something else I want to talk about here. And it is that focus and making sure that you are doing one thing at one time. So again, you can see there are notifications and unlocks on my phone. And again, for me on there, there's not even 10%. So the notifications that came through versus the unlocks on my phone, that's one example. But the whole point here is around that focus and making sure you're able to create a focused environment for you to work when you need to. And again, you might find that, again, like the children, they are very, very needy in terms of the ages of mine in particular. They want my attention. And if I don't give it to them, I've got my phone out, it makes it more difficult and you can't focus on anything. But similarly, it might be that if you're sitting at home at night with your laptop on and you've got your television going, you might find that's not a good use of your time. You're less efficient than you should be. And it's that thing again, making sure you can be focused on your time to bring things to the forefront of your mind, to be focused on your activities and not start to get distracted. I ran a poll again on LinkedIn a little while ago around distraction, or was music a distraction? For me, I can find it can be a really good focus. It can help me, but for other people, it really can't. So just be aware of what's distracting you and make sure you're focused, because if you can apply focus, you'll be more efficient in the tasks that you complete. So now I'll move on to the sorting things out. So again, apologies to my left-hand side here. I've got a flip chart with lots and lots of notes on, which you wouldn't necessarily have in a real life conversation, but you'd have different ways of putting this out. So my flip chart is here with lots of notes on, so I don't forget anything. So sorting tasks. So now we can move on to, so you've obviously got the concept of how to track things. There are ways to track things. But once you've figured out what activities you're doing each day, you've got three options in my head. And I'd like to explore these with you. So it's keeping it, getting rid of it, or optimizing it. So there are certain activities that you might have each day where you think, you know what, that's something that only I can do. I do this better than anybody. And it's something that I'm really, really good at. That's something you need to keep hold of. But there could be things that you can get rid of. And when I say get rid of, it could be that you've got two aspects for there, or two angles. You'd get rid of it for use, for good, and say, right, you know what, I don't need that. It's just in my life and it's just wasting my time. Again, you can look through your apps and realize that you're spending far too much time on a gaming app or something else that's distracting you. Angry Birds was a really good one for wasting my time when I was in the corporate land. But you know, you can just get rid of the apps. If you don't need them and they're costing you time, then get rid of them. Or you could get rid of it by delegating it to somebody else. And I'll talk a lot about delegation and outsourcing a bit later on, but there is a way there that if you can get rid of something by passing it to somebody else who's better at it than you are, that's going to be better use of your time. Or the last part here is the optimizing it piece. So making sure you do have that way that you can optimize things and make them more efficient. If you realize there are tasks there that you work on that you think, you know what, I'm really good at this, but I'm not very quick at it. It's taking too much of my time. Spend the time to save the time. It's the coaching, the training that you might get and get help with to help you to then optimize things to make things move forward. So How do you sort the tasks out in terms of which ones are right for you? Now, the first thing I look at is, again, this is the longer term piece now. I'm going to just briefly touch on the strategic side of what it is that I work with in terms of my coaching side of things. And there's a tool that I would have called the walk chart. And this is called the Where Are We Going chart. It's a tool which you can have for free. It's available to anybody. If you want it, email me, get in touch, and I'm more than happy to give you a copy of this digitally. You can have a copy of this, and the idea is that this tells you where you're going to go. It's like a roadmap for your business, if you like. It's almost like a printed version of a map of where you want to go in your business. It covers 10 years, 3 years, next year, and the next quarter. Now, the idea is if you can get this nailed, or something similar to this, because again, there are other tools that work better for other people. If you've got that strategy in mind, it makes it a lot easier to look and say, right, this quarter, we said we were, or I wanted to achieve these things. It makes it easier then to start linking back to each day and saying, right, today I'm going to do just these things, only these things, because these are the things which are going to make my next quarter really, really good. And that's the idea. You can start bringing that strategy in to say, right, okay, that's where I want to be. Again, when you come back to the tasks that you're looking at, start thinking again about that sense of satisfaction and results. With the strategy in mind and each day in mind, you can start to achieve every single day the things that you need to achieve to help you to drive on to the next stage. So that's going to be really, really hard without looking at that end game. So on top of that, we start then coming back to more around the sorting things out. That physical representation. So making sure that you have some sort of physical representation to sort things out. Behind here, you'll see there's like a little picture here of Post-it notes. It's quite a few, so I wouldn't recommend you have quite as many as that. It's not up to me again or for you to sort of know a number of how many tasks you should have, but you should start to write things down and get some physical representation. Post-it notes are a really, really good way of doing this first time off the bat, because that way you can get things and move them around when you start to figure out which ones work really well for you. And who knew 3M invented Post-it notes by accident? I believe they were actually trying to find a super, super sticky glue that would be one of the best and strongest glues on the planet. And they realized that they made a bit of a mistake with this bit of glue. It ended up on a piece of paper and became a Post-it note. That then became obviously a global phenomenon that is Post-it notes. So over to you guys. You know what's going to be right for you in terms of writing things down and how to get that physical representation. But once you have got that representation, it'll make it easy to move things around. You might need some help with this as well. And again, that's where I can, or somebody else, so one of your accountability partners, a friend or relative, they can help you to get that physical representation, to help you to understand whether you're looking at things at the right level or not. Are you going too detailed? Are you going not detailed enough? There are certain ways that you need to do things that will work best for you. Each person is different, and I help to work through that with people to make sure that they're getting things at the right level for them. But once you've got your physical representation, I mean, this could be things, again, it could be things that you don't want to do, and it's okay to delegate those things away. It could be silly things like creating photo letters for your staff. It could be dealing with absence. It could be that you've got a load of health and safety policies that you need to write and update, and making sure that you're compliant with those things. You just don't want to do it. It's difficult for you to do. Again, you can move them away. One way to look at this is to look at the next one I've got here, which is called the Do What You Love tool. And this is the simple concept of, again, if you love the things that you do, you'll never work a day in your life. That's the reason behind the naming of this tool, but it's quite a straightforward thing to use. Again, I like to keep things simple. If it doesn't make sense, then please let me know and I'll update and change and do things to help you. But the Do What You Love tool is that the idea is that the things that you love should go at the top. They're the things you should keep hold of. But the tasks that you're not so good at, that you don't really like, they're the things that should go below that line. On the left-hand side there, you can see that the ones that you're not particularly good at, but you can do them, you're good at them, they're the ones you can, again, keep hold of. The first bunch to get rid of, the ones to prioritize, getting delegated or making them more efficient, are the ones on the right-hand side there. If you're not particularly good at something and you're spending your time doing it, it might make more sense for someone else to do it for you. Or you need to learn to love it. It could be, again, that there are ways that you can get some teaching, some coaching. Someone can help you to take steps to make yourself better at the thing that it is that you're trying to do. So when you've got to those bits on the right-hand side there, you decide that you want to say, right, I'm going to get rid of some of these things. And it could be something like creating slides. I don't mind creating slides. Am I particularly good at them? I don't think so, but they do the job. The idea is that people listen to what I'm saying rather than looking at my slides. But on the left-hand side, my one in there that I really don't like doing is detailed documentation. I used to have to sometimes write documentation 15, 20 pages at a time to explain requirements, explain specifications. It wasn't something I liked to do, but it was something I was quite good at. I had to really throw myself into it, get started, make the progression, and it was really difficult for me to actually enjoy it. But once I got the output, it was quite good. So they're the sorts of things you need to consider. You might not like doing it, but if you can make yourself do it, you can force yourself into doing it. They're the things that you might want to keep hold of. But it's those things on the right-hand side there. Sales calls is the one that jumps out because they're the things I don't like to do. Think about that again. If you've got sales calls and you're going to make maybe 10 sales calls in an hour, and each of them you're sort of negatively telling yourself the stories that, again, the likes of Daksha can help you. She can help you to remove that, the physical well-being side of things, and making sure that you're able to do the things that you need to do. That's not my level of experience. I'm not able to help on the mental side of things. Mine is more giving the tools and the framework to work. But if you can't find yourself able to bring yourself to do the activities and the tasks each day, and you keep on procrastinating, again, that's the way that I can refer you to somebody else, because I like the framework, I like the tools, and that's the sort of angle that I work with. But for me, sales calls are something I do not like to do. And again, it's the stories that I might tell myself. I don't like to do it, therefore you're negatively speaking. So my quality of sales calls are probably going to be pretty poor. If I'm making 10 sales calls in an hour and getting 0 results out the back of that, that's not a good use of my time. If I could pay somebody else to do that for me and be more efficient at doing that for me, they might do those 10 sales calls in just 20 minutes. So you've got to think about the things that you're not good at and what it's actually costing you in terms of your own time. So now we move on to the last piece here, which is around planning things out. So again, once you've decided that there are things that you can get rid of, or that there are things that you want to do better, it's that delegation again. And again, I'm talking about delegating quite a lot in this piece. And it might be that you just delegate to somebody else to do it for you, or it could be that you need to do things differently yourself. But the idea here is, again, that you need to spend time to save time. It could be that on emails, you get them every single day and you need to unsubscribe. Rather than actually just click and delete, it's a lot more time efficient in the longer term to open it, find the unsubscribe, and then stop getting those emails. It's quicker and it's more efficient. But again, it could be that some mailing lists are really good at helping you to drive referrals for your networking relations. It could be that you could find ways of pass business on. So don't just get rid of all of it. Don't just delete things. There could be a way of picking through and getting the right ones for you. Similarly, some of my clients, they actually have email windows that say, right, I'm only going to respond to emails during these hours. This is the time that I talk about, or that I work on my emails, and that's it. Focus on them there and then get them done. Again, similarly with WhatsApp, I did a lot of muting notifications to make sure that I went and used WhatsApp when I wanted to use it, rather than it requesting me every sort of 5 minutes or so. I get a message coming through. So notifications, you can mute notifications, but you can also selectively choose which and when and how you have notifications, or just completely muting them. So all of those aspects there are different ways that you can potentially help yourself to save some time. But then when you're completing this task, come back again and make sure you come back to the aspect of that sense of satisfaction and the sense of results, making sure that each day you've got things planned in that you can hopefully help to move on each day and say, right, that was a great day for me, I'm completed. That was finished. And each of those days, the more of those days that you have, the more you're going to find yourself enjoying the things that you're doing. And with the sense of results as well should come, that should also feed into the business plans that you're putting in place to give you those results each time. So again, I've said delegate a lot in this, and in terms of the concept of the financials on this, it makes it a bit more difficult, because if you think about, certainly again from the solopreneur side of things, it's quite easy to say, well, actually, if I'm going to pay someone to do something that I can do myself, that isn't a good use of my time. So here's a little mechanism that I want you to think about. First of all, just have a little think, just for a moment. I'm going to just pause while you think about this one. But think about the hourly rate that you wish to, your desired hourly rate that you wish to charge out to your clients. And I'm going to just pause there, just give yourself that moment just to think. So I'm just going to punt out there just for a moment, just think. So just as an example, you're trying to charge out yourself at £50 for an hour. If you're trying to charge yourself at £50 an hour and you can find someone that will do that task for you for cheaper than your target rate, that's got to be a good use of your time. If someone else is then able to take some work off of you, you can then spend more of the time doing the things at £50 an hour. Simple mathematics, maybe, but ultimately you might not have enough customers that that's going to warrant the cost of the time. So try and think about this another way. Again, you've decided you want to delegate some stuff, but it's going to cost you money to do so. So if you delegate those tasks, it might be that you don't have the finances, the cash flow isn't quite right for you to do that. However, think about what you might do with the time. And again, the clue here, tip number one, is do not spend the time you save procrastinating. It's very, very easy to delegate something to somebody else, and then with the hours that you save, you actually spend that time doing something that isn't useful for your business. What you should do is make sure that you've got the hours that you've decided to pass to somebody else to do the work for you, and you're doing more of the things that you can add, the value that you can do, the things that you can do better. And similarly, again, the lockdown for me was a massive eye-opener. When it came to the amount of time I need to spend with my children and working with them and helping them with their schoolwork, the ages they were, it meant a lot of my time was consumed. So I made the conscious decision in my own head that when they went back to school, I would use those hours productively. And I've made sure that while they're at school, every hour that I spend at home, I'm trying to be as effective as I can during those hours, so that I can also then collect them from school. I haven't got to put them to after school clubs. So I can be really, really efficient during those working hours. So again, that's over to you guys in terms of what is it that you want to do? How much do you want to delegate? How much don't you? But if you don't want to delegate anything and you want to still stick with the things that you want to do yourself, then that's fine. Make sure that you stick with those things that you want to do, but to be efficient and effective at doing them. It might even be that a few efficiencies give you the time back that you can spend some time on just that personal reflection or the relaxation to make sure that you're more relaxed each day, knowing you've actually achieved the things that are going to take you forward each day. So there's no need to microanalyze each of your tasks either. Don't go into real detail with each task. I'm going to show you one more tool. This is the last one. And again, I say it's a tool. It's a bit of a loose interpretation of a tool. This is just a whiteboard version of the same thing. I have this on a spreadsheet. I'm more than happy to, again, send this out. It's very, very basic in terms of just a planning tool. So you've figured out which tasks you want to keep. You figured out which things that you need to do in each day. Again, I've used color coordination. I'm sure there are lots of other people that want to do many more things with colors, but you can quite easily see that if you want to, you can plan this out every single day so you know what you're doing. Again, the post-it note version is a great way to do it first of all, or even just putting it onto a spreadsheet so you've got something that you can track through each day. I've also put a conscious effort in here to make sure that there's something for everybody. So you might want to be an early morning person, you might want to work into the evening, but each of you need to figure out what works for you and not try to stack yourself right through from early morning all the way through to the end of the day. You need to make sure you're getting the right energy levels for yourselves. I also included slots in there, breakfast, lunchtime, and there's an evening meal, slightly chopped off in this version on the spreadsheet is there. Just to, again, make sure you're breaking through the day. You need to take those pauses, take the breaks to make sure that you can spend the time, to save the time. So that should be enough, I think, from the webinar side of things. We should be pretty much bang on time. I'm just checking back over my spreadsheet, my notes to make sure I haven't missed anything. Don't think I have. So I'll move on to the final part here. So any questions? I'll open it up now for any questions. But also, if you've liked what you've heard here, there was that walk chart, the business planning tool that I created, and I'm happy to talk to you through. But also, I'm going to have a webinar just before Christmas to try and squeeze it in. We're getting to the end of this year. It's been a shocker for some. It's been amazing for others. But the idea is that on the 15th of December at 2 o'clock, I'll walk you through that tool a bit more in some more detail to help you to build a plan for next year. And the idea is that if you've had a good, bad, or indifferent year, we can do much more next year. Get ready to launch when the when the country starts to open up again next year. Get yourselves really ready to fire next year and start smashing it in 2021. Also, I've got my LinkedIn on there if you're not connected to me already, and my Facebook again if you want to go and see what I do on Facebook. Each of those QR codes, and if you're not sure, feel free to get your phones out again. You can use a QR code scanning app. Google Lens works for me. Again, I'm fully subscribed to Google's environment. That's all in my household. It's everywhere. If I say the wrong words, everything starts to light up. But feel free to point at the Google Lens or point to any lens at those QR codes and book on. So again, I'll pause it there and leave it there, and hopefully see some, where are we, Q&As? Where are we? I should, hopefully, where are we?
So Lee, we've had some questions come in independently. So I just wondered, the first one is, how do I make sure I prioritize the right things to achieve my goals rather than prioritize the things that I want to get done but can't wait?
Okay, so if you want to make sure, that's an interesting one there. So in terms of prioritizing the right thing, this comes to that link, and it's the linking through between the strategy, between knowing where you want to be in the longer term and then what you want to achieve today. And it's very easy. I've seen it quite a few times with numerous clients where you'll find that you're filling things and they're really valuable. So right, this is a good use of my time. I'm good at this. I'm great at this. But then when you ask the question, does that link to your next quarter? It doesn't. And that's the thing there. It's making sure you're looking at a strategy in mind so that you can drive forward and say, right, I know that these things are going to help me to achieve what I want in the quarter, if that makes sense. So again, it's making sure that the strategy is there as well, and not being afraid to say to yourself, I want to do that, but I'm happy for it to wait.
Okay. Brilliant, thank you. We've got another one as well. The self-employed or solopreneur can find it really difficult to delegate or outsource when they've been so used to doing it all themselves. I think this is so true. What tips and advice have you got for helping people let go a little? Especially, we all have this control freak nature sometimes. How can we all learn to let go?
Okay, so if you're a solopreneur, this is a great one in terms of it's very difficult because it's all about you. It's your business, you've done it, everything's around what you're doing. But it is that aspect of it's a strange thing to try and do when it's just you, but it's bringing yourself outside and taking that reflection and looking at the business as a business entity rather than being you. Once you've done that, you can then start to subjectively challenge and say, right, that business it needs these things to happen. And that's when you can start thinking about the things that you're the best at. Because if you can think about the things that you're best at doing and you can do those things in your business, that's when you can start thinking about the things you might want to then delegate and hand away.
Something for us all to try there, I think.
Yeah.
We've got a couple more questions actually. So we've had one sent in that says some people can find it easy to write a to-do list, but difficult to prioritize the tasks on the list.
Yeah.
How is it best to tackle?
Okay, so again, prioritization is one of those things. Always, what I'm going to suggest here is that you start at that point of satisfaction at the end of the day and the results. So when you're starting to build a to-do list for each day, you need to make sure that you get to a point where you can stop at the end of the day and not keep on going. Certainly from a solopreneur perspective, I'm guilty of this. I'm sure many others are. It's very easy to just create a list that just goes on and on and on and on because you can always keep on doing. But ultimately, you will always find ways that you can always keep on going. So first of all, make sure you're happy that you can allow yourself to stop and put that line at the end of the day and say, right, I'm going to finish at this point of the day and I will have achieved. And again, going back to that strategy to say, look, I know that if I do these things, it will take me forward. And it is that baby steps thing. If every single day you're achieving and every single day you're making things that go forward, you will start to see that each day adds up to the bigger plan rather than trying to bust yourself every single day. Ultimately, you'll not getting burnt out and start to focus on the wrong things. So you need to make sure you're able to put that line in the sand and say, that's it, that's done, that's today done.
Thank you. Finally, someone just said, how do they get access to the tools that you've mentioned today on the phone? Okay,
so again, anybody that wants access to these tools, just drop me an email, a text, a WhatsApp, believe it or not, message me through any means that you see on here, and I'm more than happy to share those with you. Again, the tools are free for anybody to get access to, so if you want them, feel free to get in touch and I'll give you a copy.
Brilliant. Will there be a recording as well on your website, Lee, of the webinar?
Yes, so the idea is that everybody that's registered, so those that have participated and been on today, you guys, as well as the ones that have registered in advance, anybody who's registered for the webinar will get a copy of it anyway. I'll send an email just, again, asking for any feedback because, again, everyone can develop, everyone can move on and do things differently. So I'll ask for any feedback and I'm gladly open all this to that one. But also they'll get a copy of the webinar and I'm going to aim to look to get a copy on the website as well. So if anyone's found it valuable and thinks that anybody else might share or benefit from it, then I'll point them at the website as well to get a copy.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lee. That's all the questions.
Brilliant. Well, in that case, again, I said I wanted to try and keep it short and sweet this time round. The one on the 15th will probably go on a little bit longer, but I wanted to keep this one nice and short and sweet to hopefully give you a bit of time, hopefully help you guys to do more than what you could, and then move on and get some of your time back. Again, feel free to let me know if there's not any, if you want any more feedback, any questions, and other than that, I will thank you all very much for your time and hopefully see you on another webinar in the future.